The following review is for a title in early access. This review is a reflection of the game in its current state and should be interpreted like the game, in progress and subject to change. That said, please do not dismiss the game or this review based on early access. A good game unfinished can still be a good game.
Right, get on with it. Get on with it. Oh.
Hey everyone, I'm Cravan, What the Fox is going on, and welcome to the inaugural episode of What the Fox.
Long ago, before the internet grew mighty enough for 1,000 people to ban that spammer on World Chat, before the first Spartans could teabag each other, there existed local multiplayer.
Despite games of the past having less than half the definition or detail of the multi-million-dollar games of today, gamers still gathered around a single shared TV or arcade cabinet in order to sacrifice their eyesight together. Today, both new properties and series of long-running traditions of couch co-op seem quite forgetful of this classic gaming pastime. Gamers are no strangers to the terms socially awkward, isolated, or in their own world. But when gathered around the soft hum of a screen, gamers were still in their own world but physically next to each other, strengthening the experience by sharing it. Sure, the internet allows us to play with our friends all over the world, but that shared experience is reduced to nothing more than an impersonal set of coinciding individual interpretations. Luckily, there are some developers who remember the roots and revisit them with a modern set of eyes. One of those developers is the Australian-based Powerhoof, whom brought to the world an indie gem simply titled Crawl. Crawl is a 2D, top-down, roguelite in the same style of many dungeon crawlers that precede it, but the unique one-stick, two-button, multiplayer-centric approach it offers allows it to easily stand next to games like Mario Party. For those who've never partook in Mario's parties, especially the older, brutal ones, you and your bestie's friendships are put to the test as shifting alliances, plentiful items, and constant confrontation and competition tempt you to toss out your moral compass and claw your way through every toe step, cock block, and backstab to the top. Now, if everyone in your group is close with each other, the game typically escalates to competitive spirit as it goes on, but every angry outburst or jab at others' fortune isn't malicious. Rather, they seem in the spirit of the game and are treated in good faith. But if you're with anyone less, you begin to notice your friends' darker sides. Start questioning their motives. Maybe ask yourself how you even stand them. By the end, it's likely that at least one person will be physically or mentally hurt. Basically, every party you've been to in college. Well, Crawl not only adopts a similar opportunistic dog-eat-dog approach, it embraces and thrives on it. See, any combination of up to 4 people and AI opponents can play in a session, but only one player is the human, or the hero, at any given time. As the hero, your role is mostly what you'd expect. Fight baddies to move to the next room, gain experience in the form of blue orbs and level up, look for gold and blessings from deities, find shops and spend that gold on new abilities, some fancy bow or badass sword, locate a way to keep going further down, eventually fight a boss, beat them, and escape the dungeon like the hero you are, reveling in the popularity and riches a hero like you deserves. Seems like pretty standard stuff. So you might be thinking, if you're the hero, what are your friends doing? Well, they're trapped in ethereal spirit forms, forced to follow you around as you explore the dungeon. But they're not your friends anymore, oh no. See, friends don't try to murder each other. And now you know. Every second you spend heroing around room to room gives them another second to look for or prepare an opportunity to kill you. And unfortunately for you, they have many chances. They control all of the monsters that you'll fight, summoned from pentagrams that litter nearly every room, all working together to make your life difficult. They possess the numerous traps sprinkled throughout your descent, including floor spikes, lasers, saw blades, and flamethrowers. Even when given nothing, they'll idly collect nearby ectoplasm to create basic infantry blobs that can complicate larger fights, keep you in a deadly room, or just barely score that hit for your last shred of life. So, still enjoying your popularity, noble hero? As if you didn't have enough attention already, know that each one of your so-called friends wants to personally kill you themselves, all vying desperately to prove their friendship the strongest by drawing the last of your blood for you. You see, Mr. Popular, whichever lucky friend delivers the final blow gains the rights to your human vessel, trapping you in their place while they do who knows what with that corporeal flesh bag you only now realize you took for granted. And all of a sudden, none of your friends care about you. It sinks in that they only wanted you for your body, and now you're just like them. So, what are you waiting for? Get off your bony ghost ass and get your humanity back the same way you lost it, by rearranging that body's anatomy. What? It's bleeding on the carpet. Don't worry about your newly human friend's greedy paws selling that sweet weapon you just got. Every friend in the room has their own separate hero, stats, and inventory. Speaking of statistics, the hero has 3 main attributes: stamina, strength, and agility. They each represent what you'd expect. Stamina affects your maximum health and is the only attribute that occasionally rises as a result of leveling up. Strength, along with what weapon you're using, determines how much damage you'll cause. And agility dictates not only how fast you run, but also how quickly you attack. Each attribute starts at 5 and can range from a minimum of 0 to a maxed out 20. Since strength and agility don't increase with level, the only way to change them is by buying potions at the shop. Every potion will grant you 2 of one attribute, but at the cost of losing 1 point in another. In the early levels, you'll need careful consideration if you want to avoid moving like a snail through tar, or having the fortitude of a moth. And while we're at the shop, I might as well mention that you can also spend your gold on their selection of weapons, artifacts, and abilities. Each weapon handles a bit differently from even its closest relatives, and determines a fair bit of how you'll end up playing, whether keeping baddies at range, dodging in and out, or timing a mighty blow just right. Later on, you might find some weapons that have a chance of elemental damage or even provide a powerful magical attack. Ooh, laser beams! A word of caution though, when you buy a new weapon, it automatically trades your old one in for its value, with no way to get it back, so choose wisely. You can test drive your new vehicle of destruction on the dummy in the bottom left corner of every shop. Good for seeing how fast you attack or how each weapon hits. Artifacts are held items that grant passive or active effects, some of which are situational. These can do a variety of things, like provide store discounts, heal you if you're on fire, give you companions, or even improve your ghost form with increased trap damage or quicker blob creation. You can hold as many different items as you want, and some of them can even be stacked. Why, yes, a 90% store discount sounds lovely. And last are abilities. These act as a secondary action with a cooldown that give you another option when your puny shiv just isn't quite good enough. Every hero starts with a basic dodge roll that grants a small window of invulnerability, but you can upgrade to a new ability by perusing the shops. These newfound powers allow you to summon arcane bows, cover the ground with putrid sludge, create shields, and more. Like weapons, you can only have one ability at a time, so take the time to find one that fits your playstyle. And you can take your time. Pentagrams will never appear in the shops, and your friends can't summon blobs here, meaning no monsters ever, so you're safe to take your time, read everything, and make an informed choice. The only downside to this is that ectoplasm, as always, keeps showing up, meaning your friends can accumulate blobs to make your life hell from the second you leave. There's only one obstacle between you and that shiny upgrade, other than surviving long enough to make it to the shop. To buy these things, you need gold. As the hero, you'll stumble across the occasional chest, or, if you're lucky, treasure room. You might even have a weapon that makes enemies drop a piece here or there. Overall, though, you'll find it hard to accumulate enough wealth to switch your weapon, equip a new ring, and buy that extra strength you need all at the same time. So, how do you get rich? Like most famous artists, you'll ironically get the most money in the afterlife. Because they clearly need more incentive. The more damage ghosts do to the hero, the more money they earn after the fight, win or lose. This mechanic not only attempts to balance asymmetry and be fair to everyone, but also adds an extra layer of strategy. You'll want to balance being the ghost to gain gold, and being the hero to spend it. As the ghost, you might even give away the kill to someone else, just so you can keep accumulating wealth for later. So by now, you've fought off some skeletons and rats, let a friend borrow your humanity, did enough damage to get some gold, found out how many bear traps human legs can endure, asked nicely for your body back, bought a sweet sword, hulked out on strength potions, and effortlessly swabbed a crimson path through the rest of the dungeon to the stairs down. You're feeling great. Between the levels you've gained and the gear you've purchased, you've become so much stronger. So things should only get easier from here. Right? Rhetorical questions with an uncertain tone are trite and predictable. Jeez, why'd I even write it that way? Well, it would be easier if you weren't incurring your phantasmal friend's wrath. Literally. Let me explain. Wrath is a currency of sorts that can only be spent between floors. When one player's hero levels up, every other player gains a little bit of wrath. The more you level, the more wrath others get, and conversely, if you never played the hero or couldn't level up on a floor, you'd gain more wrath than anyone else who did level. You can then spend that wrath on upgrading the monsters you summon as a ghost. Each player has access to 3 monsters, all of which can be upgraded multiple times, and sometimes with different evolutionary trees. Tired of your skeleton lightly slapping the hero? Well, that can be fixed, but would you rather a bow or a sword? Not every monster has an either-or choice, and some evolutions need to be unlocked first, but each evolution grants more health, more damage, and sometimes different attacks and abilities than the last. Each evolution within a tree costs more wrath than the last as well, with the 4th and final tier usually needing 40 to 50 wrath alone. But you'll be glad you saved up when you're spawning undead armies, melting faces with lasers, or breathing fire as a dragon. I could have mentioned this earlier, but there's a good reason I didn't. The types of monsters available to you are determined by something before the game even begins. Which deity do you choose to worship? There are only 3 to pick from when you first play, but you can currently unlock up to 11 different gods, each with their own monsters as well as a special trait or starting equipment. If you like the skeletons, rats, and self-replicating mushrooms, choosing Goloth makes your traps deal more damage. But if you'd rather pick Shrimp for an innate store discount, you'll keep the skeletons, but get trap-laying gnomes and flying eyeballs instead. Despite this being one of the first things you do, before you even learn anything or start playing the game, this is an important decision that more or less impacts everything. I'm only now mentioning this because having a little background about the game mechanics first hopefully minimizes frustration new players may experience. Wondering things like, why don't I get any spiders? Or, why do your monsters have more health than mine? Once you unlock enough deities, you'll get another option: to worship no one. Also called taunting, this is for those people out there, you know who you are, looking for a greater challenge, or those trying to make it a bit easier for your less experienced or less bloodthirsty friends without intentionally playing worse. Going godless certainly tests your self-reliance, because in this world, all atheists ironically acknowledge a deity just enough to directly challenge them. Selecting no one brings you to a condensed list of deities you can choose from, now with modified monster trees and debilitating traits such as low hero and monster health, or being stuck with a basic sling for a weapon all game. Take that, you unenlightened heathen. I'm sure you're thinking, surely this hell doesn't go on for forever. As you descend deeper and level up, you'll come across rooms with strange obelisks and glowing lights. If you're a level 10 or higher hero, you can attempt to escape the dungeon and win the game, but there's one final challenge standing between you and sweet, seductive freedom: a good old-fashioned boss fight. In my opinion, this is one of the only parts of the game that suffers from early access, for there are only 2 different bosses at the moment.
Though their website shows a 3rd boss is already in the works, yay!
As of now, you'll fight either Gidrock, a 3-headed elemental hydra, or Korok, the tentacle monster of your nightmares. I won't ruin it by explaining their moves or the tactics required, but most people will agree that Korok needs some tweaking to compete with Gidrock's difficulty. Now, if you manage to beat the boss, then congratulations, you win! Tell them what they've won, Johnny.
It's your brand new car!
But if not, then you get ejected with minimal health and keep going. Not a huge price to pay, I know. Unless this is the 3rd time someone's going against a boss. Yeah, not coming back from that. Don't worry though. If you lose, all that happens is the humanity hot potatoes pass to the boss, unleashing an ancient eldritch force upon an unsuspecting world and sealing yourself within the tomb forever. All this really means is everyone loses, and whoever lost last gets their name deleted, making you lose any winning streak you may have had. Which might have been a bigger deal if, at least for now, you couldn't just remake your name right away. And that's about it. Win or lose, you're shown your respective scores at the end, as well as whatever you may have unlocked, of which there are many, many things. And then it's back to the main menu to start another session. Unless you or your remaining friends aren't confident in withstanding a 2nd round of emotional roulette. So now I'll shift to talking about the technical side of things. From all this gameplay footage I've been showing, you should be able to gather whether or not you like the graphics and aesthetic style of Crawl. It has this unique combination of feculent crypts, digital vibrance, and a little Lovecraftian horror that I feel lends so much atmosphere to this game. From the statues and shrines to the smooth animations, this game just exudes passion and charm. On rare occasion, the lack of detail detracts from the game. For instance, if each player didn't have their own color, there'd be little way to tell the heroes apart, and sometimes it can be a little hard to find yourself when you're at the center of a multi-monster melee. But these are minor complaints though. I don't think they ruin the great unified style and atmosphere. I know a lot of people, maybe yourself included, are tired of the retro look a lot of indie games do nowadays, but I think it works really well here. Not bad for just two guys making this whole thing, huh? All the music you've been hearing in the background is from the game, so if I felt like shutting up for 5 seconds, you can... I feel it adds to the tone nicely. Lots of simple, crunchy chips match the 8-bit art style, while still letting a rich, dark, gothic air about your journey. For me, they seem to capture the mystery of dungeon delving and supernatural elements while still being upbeat enough to get the blood flowing. Sadly, there are only 5 tracks that loop seamlessly at the moment, so expect some repetition, but I'm definitely excited to hear more. The sound effects, on the other hand, are a bit of a mixed bag. Now, there's a change in tone between a light hit, a heavy swing, and footsteps, but it's basically the difference in pitch between beeps, swishes, and thuds. Well, except for skeletons. They tend to talk a lot. But it's not like the game needs more than that. The sounds fit thematically with the dirty, minimalist art and complements the good music. Sure, it's rough around the edges, but serviceable enough to hear what's happening amidst the chaos. The story, well, if you could call it that, is clearly not the focus here, but it's worth mentioning. Being trapped in catacombs fighting for your life against your friend's spirits in a desperate attempt to escape isn't exactly Pulitzer Prize material, but it's better than the reason given for Mario's sworn enemy to put aside his evil plans just to steal your coins for landing on a particular space in an inconsequential board game.
Psst. Pro tip, there is no reason.
The gameplay, now that's the true hero of Crawl. I can state with near 100% certainty that, unless you only play racing games, puzzlers, point-and-clicks, or slower-paced strategy games, you will have some fun, albeit intense, matches with your friends. As far as I know, this approach to asymmetric multiplayer is unique to this game. Hardly ever have I gotten so invested in a character that won't keep gear or progress session to session just because I couldn't dodge in time or miss that last critical hit on the hero. And trust me, you will fight for it. Even if you're playing by yourself, the bots provide a worthy substitute, especially on the hardest difficulty. And the fact that the floor layouts and items offered are different every time, thank you roguelites, hardly any game feels like a previous one. Now, I'm the kind of person who always wants more of a good thing, but there's barely room to complain here, and I'm certain more will be added before final release, making it that much more awesome. The controls are relatively simple and easy to grasp, especially on a controller. You move and aim with the left stick, attack with one button, and perform a skill or ability with another. Whether hero or monster, that's it. You can also play with just the mouse, pointing where to go and clicking for attacks and abilities, or the keyboard, using the arrow keys to move and the Z and X keys as buttons. The keyboard works well, but is restricted to 8 directions, and the mouse, despite being done as well as it could be, just felt loose and disconnected to me. Thus, I'd recommend using controllers or, worst case, the keyboard. The only tricks are getting used to the speed and pattern of things and feeling out the abilities. How far can I roll? When's my spell recharged? But those will come with time. My biggest complaint is with ranged attacks. I wish I could aim separately from movement, but some range attacks allow you to hold the button down to aim properly and release to fire. I also can't argue that keeping to only one stick keeps it simple, even if getting the perfect angle can be a little tricky. Multiplayer is the focus, and it shows. I know how much trouble goes into programming a good AI like the bots have here, and the 3 flavors of difficulty you can set them to provide a wide range of challenges. But human players wouldn't do this. This game is instead designed for you and your buddies to crowd around the TV until eyesore and caked in blood. Heck, it even has an arcade cabinet option in case you had the money or means to do so. Sadly, online multiplayer doesn't exist. The developers themselves have stated that, quote, "Unfortunately, we don't know if or when it would be added. We're going to start working on it soon, but it could take a long time, and there's a chance that it might not be possible. That's why we suggest waiting for now if you only want an online multiplayer game. So I'd follow the same advice. I also agree with and respect their decision. Not only was this game designed with mostly local multiplayer in mind, but given how a split second could mean the difference between dodging and death, any latency could ruin the experience. So unless the aforementioned online play becomes a reality, the community of the game exists solely in the wiki, on forums, or with the people sitting right next to you. Outside of some people complaining about the lack of online play, to whom I refer my previous explanation, the forums are generally friendly, informative, and relatively troll-free. The wiki was 2 full updates behind the game's current version, but has since been updated while making this video. There's only about 30 pages, but they provide all the information you need to know without going overboard. If you were sitting there worrying about such a simple, repetitive concept getting boring quickly, then I'm obligated to remind you that this is a roguelite, meaning level layout and item availability is randomly generated per game. Yes, you'll still be smacking baddies, searching for treasure in staircases, and hoping you find the shops in time like every other game, but maybe this time you don't find a shop this floor, never get those sweet throwing daggers you had before, or only get to improve your agility. Yeah, what would you do then? The way things work currently, one session doesn't seem to last more than an hour, ideally around half an hour, so try to fight the temptation of getting attached to your gear. Not to mention, different friends means a different experience. Also, you only start with a few deities, weapons, and traps available. You unlock all the rest by playing a game to completion, win or lose, meaning each game you play adds to the potential arsenal. Polish is one of the last steps with good reason. Making sure it's stable, smoothing out the rough edges, and pulling the game together as a whole can really make or break the entire experience. Despite Crawl being early access, meaning this step is ongoing, I've never had the game crash once, and nothing game-breaking has ever occurred. Sure, the AI has its moments, but it never stopped me from completing the game. I feel some weapons and abilities are clearly better than others, but that also might just come down to personal preference because they all seem like viable, balanced options, and I've yet to find any graphical or audio glitches. Kudos, guys. Finally, we come to value. Since Crawl is in early access, you can currently get it on the Steam store for only $10. With each game lasting about half an hour, you might not think this is worth it, but this game is meant to be played multiple times, hopefully with different party members. If you didn't have people nearby to play with, I'd understand some trepidation, but even as a single-player game, I could justify this price because, simply put, it's fun. I've already put in over 17 hours, meaning over 30 separate dungeon delves, and about half of those were just by myself. But if we bring friends into the equation, it's one of the best local party games I've played in recent years. I could pay $20 and still feel I got my money's worth. So for me, you can't really get much better value. And now, for the bonus round! I'll admit, this is the most subjective part of my reviews, but my gestalt points are my representation of the game's individual parts coming together to add or detract from the whole. Crawl earns itself some gestalt for its distinctive take on multiplayer, tons of personality, and the refreshing amount of fun and investment that I had in a very pick-up-and-play style package. Overall, I had a lot of fun with Crawl, and I think many of you out there would enjoy it too. Now, if you're sitting there thinking,
no online multiplayer? What a deal breaker.
Then I'd understand giving this a pass until the developers confirm that. And I won't lie, this game won't appeal to everyone, especially if you're not very competitive, but I imagine a lot of gamers, both yesterday's and today's, would get into it and share some great times if they gave it a chance. It's a cheap, fun, action-packed little indie gem that's sure to entertain you and your friends, be it a small gathering or larger party, and hopefully grants you that real, personal connection classic games would provide. Just try to reserve the violence for the game, not real life, okay?
Somehow, I always knew it would come to this.
Wow, you're still here? And I'm still talking. You must have actually liked my inane ramblings to make it this far. You're a true patriot. A real slab. Unless you just got really bored, but I'll take what I can get. However you got here, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to watch this monstrosity to which I've given life. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I can't even tell you how many setbacks I hit along the way, but in the end, I still had a blast making this. If you enjoyed watching this video even a fraction as much as I had creating all of it, I'm happy. I just want to keep improving and hope that with whatever support you're willing to give, I can continue making even better videos in the future. This is probably the part where everyone says something like, hit that like or subscribe button for more, but I don't want to be like that more than I have to be. I trust your autonomy. If anything, I'd prefer to hear your thoughts or comments, good, bad, Switzerland, so that I can provide you with even better content later. I won't know how to do that unless you tell me, so please don't hesitate to say something. I will say that I am currently gathering footage and working on a review for The Division, but you'll have to pardon my 5-year-old video card chugging its way through that one. Also, it's not definitive, but I'm looking into bringing more than just my perspective to the table for that. Oh, I also have a Twitch account under the name Kravan. There is a link in the description, but fair warning, I don't stream often since my upload speed is less than ideal. But if I do get into it regularly, I'll be sure to stick to a set schedule. I guess that about covers it. Thanks so much for watching again. I'll see you at the Fox Den. Glob. Glob. Glob! As you descend deeper and level up, you'll come across rooms with strange obelisks and And that's why you don't have your phones on while you're recording, kids.